our regular segment, Morning Edition Preview, we covered the story of a Seoul expat and mum, Hallie Bradley, who published a children's book written both in Korean and English for her child. We didn't have much time to cover her side of this story due to the time constraints, so we decided to invite her to the studio instead. I'm delighted to say that she is here with us now for this week's Touch Base in Seoul. Ms. Bradley, welcome to the show.
Hi.
It's great to have you with us. As we said, we saw the article about this Korean/English children's book and we were very taken with it. It's called The Sun and the Moon Story. Can you first tell us more about it? What is the story about?
Well, it started because my daughter was trying to put her to sleep and she wanted to stay awake.
Right.
So I was trying to explain to her that when the sun is up, we move, we do things, we have fun. And then when the sun goes down, the moon takes over and he watches us so that we can take a break. And kept telling that story and eventually it became a book.
So how old was your child when you were telling the story?
Around 3, I think, was when the bedtime routine really kicks in. When you have little kids and they are talking a lot and they're trying to stay awake as long as possible. And in our family, all 3 of us, my husband and me and Ava, sleep together. And so we tried to do the bedtime routine bilingually. And she kept wanting to hear the story in English and Korean, which was a bit rough because I was making it up on the fly. So my husband then had to translate on the fly.
Okay, so you just made up the story by yourself then?
Right, yeah. It was like kind of just a calming, I was trying to give her a calming experience so that it helped her see that she had a lot of fun during the day and we did all that we could do that day, but now it's time to close off, turn off our eyes and drift away to sleep.
So it's one thing to make up a story with your children, try to get them to sleep, but then quite another to come out and actually try and publish it into a children's book. How did that come about?
It was kind of, I was talking to other multicultural families here in Korea and was talking to them about how there's a lot of ESL material and there's a lot of study books available, but there's nothing that's kind of just for the family dynamic. Like, it's not necessarily about studying. And of course, if you want to be bilingual and you have little kids that you want to help them be bilingual, it's a great story for that. But it's more about just having family time and giving them that experience that's like, this is a story for you. It's not about learning. It's just about being your bilingual self. It's got a little bit of Korean. It's got a little bit of like the Western mentality inside of it. And that is what multicultural kids are. They're a little mix. So it's important to like celebrate that. Right.
There have been books in the past where a children's book that are both available in English and Korean, but separately. So if you want to look at it bilingually, you'd have to buy both books. But this brings it all together into one book.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Was it a difficult process getting that made?
Well, the story was written, and then I wanted to get some illustrations to go with it, and I contacted one of my artist friends who's a local artist here, and she was really interested in collaborating on it, and she's really amazing because she was able to bring the Korean window frames and bring the Korean like little aspects into the illustrations.
When you say window frames, you mean actual window frames?
You know, like the Hanok windows, the wooden ones. And when you see it, you know that's Korea. So you immediately, like, parts of it where you look at the pictures and you're like, oh, that's definitely a Korean bathroom because the thing that connects to the shower head is right there, you know, like things like that. So when kids are looking at it, they can really immediately think of, oh, Korea, but they can also understand that it's a mix of different ideas that has brought them to this story.
And the artwork is wonderful. It's very bright, vivid.
Raquel did an amazing job. You should definitely search her out because she loves to do watercolors for other people. But I think that having a collaborative book where we're trying to meld 2 different cultures, it came together really well because of the story and her understanding. She works with kids as well, so her understanding that we wanted to just make something that was going to be perfect for kids that are definitely from multicultural backgrounds, and just celebrates both of the different mixed sides that they have.
So you wrote the story yourself. You said you made it up while you were telling the story to your child. And I know this is not your first writing stint. You're a frequent contributor to various media outlets such as the BBC and CNN, and you have a very popular travel blog as well called the Soul of Seoul. So you're a writer, but then how does it differ writing for a children's book? Especially, as you said, you were making up, but did you have a very full story or did you have to fill it out when you're writing the book?
When I sat down to actually write it, I had to fill it in a bit and then read it with my daughter to see what her reaction was to the actual written one. Because I think when you are talking to little kids, you can kind of gauge based on what their eyeballs are doing, if they're interested or if they're not interested.
Right.
And so it's easy when you're telling a story orally to notice, are they interested or not? Can I change it? So when you actually write the book, I have to do you want to hear this detail or do you not want to hear this detail?
Okay,
Is it
okay.
important for you or not? So that took a little bit of a practice.
And who wrote the Korean side of the book? Was it your husband?
No, so I was working with someone who is Ji Min-yoon. She also works with young kids. And the reason I did that, my husband, he translates, but he's a very just straightforward, logical translator. And
Okay.
when you tell stories, you have to do it in a way that, especially with kids, they're going to be interested. And I think there's a way to do it a bit flowery with more detail. And especially with young children, it's different. When you read a storytelling, it's stories for children versus a math book or something. My husband would write a math book. Jimin would write for kids. So that's what she was helping me with.
Sure, we need math books as well, but
Yes, we
perhaps
do.
he wasn't the right person for this book.
Not for
Okay.
this one.
So how has the reaction been to the book? Perhaps most importantly, what did your daughter think of the book?
She loved it. When she first saw it actually brought to life with illustrations, I think she was surprised because she'd only heard it before then. So it was all a bit in her head what she expected. So when she actually saw it, she could pick out the little bits. And every time the kids go through it anyway, they pick out little different things that they pick up on and they notice. And it's very colorful. So it's, kind of just bringing in, when you have 3 to 5 year olds, you can bring in very different aspects of the story depending on how old they are and just what they're interested in. But she really loved it once it was in her hands and she could touch it.
That's great. Definitely she was your number one target, perhaps, audience for this
Yes.
book. What about the wider reaction from others? I saw that it's already sold out on your website.
Yes, happily. I wasn't quite sure what people would what they would do or what their reactions would be, but I have found a lot of multicultural families have been really interested because they also have that struggle where they're trying to go to bed at night and they don't know, can't find the stories that are going to be translated in a way that celebrates the Western and the Korean and brings them together into one story. So yeah, it sold out pretty quickly. So I've put in an order for more. So there are more coming to Korea. Of course, it's available on Amazon, but if you want to wait till it gets back in Korea again, I'm looking into that, getting that figured out.
It sounds like it was also a very personal project, as you said. Writing a book that's bilingual, both Korean and English, is actually quite a niche market, a niche audience for that as well.
Yeah.
But what have you found as you wrote it? Well, now it's finished, now it's all out there. What do you feel?
Well, I thought it was more of a narrowed niche than it might be because I did have a couple teachers that actually reached out to buy a few different copies because they wanted to give it to their students to say kind of a thank you and I was really nice teaching you. And I thought, that's not a way that I necessarily realized people would use it, but that's a great way to use it. So there are different ways to enjoy the book or give it to someone that would enjoy it. Personally, for me, writing it and having it published and then showing people was very different than any other writing I've done. I usually focus on, like I said, tourism and ESL. So this was very personal. So when I did release it, I was kind of like, oh my gosh, what will the reaction be? It's like when you do an artistic piece, you're like, I don't know what they're going to say. It's very personal.
So this is a one-off, or
No.
are you going to try and do more?
Definitely going to try to do more. Based on the reaction, I really do think this is something that people are interested in, and just how it all came together. Now that I know the process, it would be much faster to get it all done out there again. So I think it would be fun to do a series and try to get the series out there so people could just have different stories to tell their kids.
Do you have stories in mind already? Something that you've already
I do.
created with your daughter?
Yes.
Already?
Yes. I'm the oldest in my family. I grew up telling stories to my little sisters. So my mom always said that I should be a children's story writer. So I think I've had a lot of stories that I took from growing up with them and I've already told Ava. And I've written some of them down already just so I can remember to tell her later. I'm thinking now I need to sit down, edit them, and get them in the process. But yeah, I'm excited to do that.
as you said, you're excited to do that. You have more of these books, but as you said, you are a writer yourself. You've been living in Korea for a long time. We mentioned briefly your blog as well. Can you tell us about that blog as well? Because it's pretty a big deal here as well, isn't it?
Yeah, the Soul of Seoul. It started as a way to keep me motivated in Korea. I realized I came here for 1 year and realized I was going to stay forever. Got married. My husband's Korean, so
you've been here since 2006.
Since 2006,
right? Okay,
yeah,
long time.
So I wanted to write and actually just mostly share with my family what was going on here. Back in 2006, we did not have FaceTime. We were using phone cards, and I wanted them to be able to see what was going on here and not to be scared and, things that are my everyday occurrences. And then gradually it started to grow, and now it's a quite popular website for people, especially if you want to get off the beaten path, which is really important now with COVID and everything. I think, of course, everyone sees the top 10 things you should see when you come to Korea, and you do that in 1 year. But there's so many other things that haven't gotten guides translated yet. They haven't gotten all the information out there, but there are so many awesome adventures to take. And so that's kind of what I just bring onto the Soul of Seoul and focus on giving people other places to go.
And you've expanded into writing children's book as well. What's your plans for the future then, overall?
Overall, we'll continue writing.
Continue writing children's books and travel and everything like that?
Yeah, I think travel has been for a while my main enthusiastic endeavor. So I will continue definitely focusing on travel, but I'm happy to have something else that's a different outlet. My daughter's extremely creative, so I kind of hope to bring her into the book production at some point. Maybe get her to make some of the drawings herself and then use those, because I think that's just would be another fun way to get her involved and make it a family sort of, we've done this together.
Definitely, it sounds like it'd be really rewarding as well. Well, we've been speaking to Hallie Bradley, the author of the bilingual children's book, The Sun and the Moon Story. It was a delight to have you on the show today, and we hope lots of Korean English-speaking families get to enjoy the books.
Thank you so much.